In 1968, a young Iris and her fiancé Paul were among the attendees at the grand opening of the Skyview restaurant. Paul, presenting an engagement ring, asked Iris for her hand in marriage. As the ring slipped onto her finger, Iris witnessed a horrifying event. A small boy on a higher level casually flicked a coin. It seemed as though an unseen, malevolent force directed the coin, guiding it precisely into a ventilation shaft. The coin lodged itself in the fan, bringing its blades to an abrupt halt. Meanwhile, inside the observation tower, people celebrated joyously, oblivious to the rapid spread of fractures in the panoramic glass floor beneath their feet. As Iris and Paul shifted their positions, the metal support structures below reached their critical limit. One by one, fastening bolts groaned and then snapped. Suddenly, the trapped coin shattered a fan blade, sending the fragment hurtling directly into a gas pipe. While the revelers danced on, the cracks intensified and gas began to seep into the air. Everything around Iris filled her with an ominous unease. Without warning, Paul plummeted through the failing floor. People started falling in quick succession, frantically grasping at exposed metal beams below. Ground staff erupted in panic, fleeing for their lives. Paul managed to cling to a section of reinforced glass. Iris shrieked for assistance, but her pleas went unanswered. She reached out desperately for Paul, but he lost his grip and fell into the abyss below. Chaos erupted as terrified individuals scrambled for escape. A woman, engulfed in flames, stumbled into the area of the gas leak, instantly triggering a colossal explosion. Those who couldn't outrun the blast perished. Iris barely escaped the inferno. Staff members frantically yelled at any remaining survivors to evacuate immediately. The boy who had thrown the coin darted forward, leading the frantic exodus. The panicked crowd surged towards the emergency exit, but fate had meticulously planned this, too. The walkway disintegrated, sending everyone who had stepped onto it to their deaths. Miraculously, the boy emerged unscathed. The dwindling survivors rushed to the elevator, violently shoving each other in a desperate bid for survival. An elderly gentleman forcefully pushed Iris aside, but became wedged halfway in the overcrowded elevator doors. The overtaxed lift then catastrophically malfunctioned, gruesomely crushing the old man. Iris desperately sought another escape route, but the immense stress began to affect her pregnancy. She suddenly noticed objects around her sliding horizontally, and the ceiling above ominously began to fissure. Sensing impending catastrophe, she rapidly clambered upwards. Others were not so fortunate. The floor cleaved in two, forming a precipitous incline, sending people sliding uncontrollably onto the reinforced glass panels below. A woman believed she had survived, but as she looked up, a piano teetered precariously. Death once again intervened, dropping a coin that struck the piano, sending it crashing down onto the unfortunate woman. At this point, every individual in that group had fallen. The boy, escaping, smirked triumphantly until the piano landed directly on him. Iris mourned Paul deeply, but then, seeing another child in peril, she risked everything to save him. At that precise moment, the towering structure above completely disintegrated. In the final fraction of a second, Iris grasped a piece of metal, but upon closer inspection, it wasn't her own grip that saved her. It was Paul's engagement ring snagged on a steel rod. The fragile purchase couldn't last. The next second, Iris plunged into the raging inferno below. Stephanie awoke from a nightmare during her class, but this was no ordinary bad dream. For 2 straight months, the identical scenario replayed in her sleep. Stephanie confided in her roommate about it. In her dream, there was a woman named Iris, her grandmother's name, though Stephanie had never met Iris and wasn't even certain she was alive. Her roommate suggested she return home to investigate, hoping it would bring an end to the unsettling dreams. Upon arriving home, Stephanie questioned her father, Marty, about Iris. Marty's brow furrowed slightly, but he offered an awkward smile, clearly concealing information. At that moment, her younger brother, Charlie, announced his intention to visit their cousins. Stephanie decided to accompany him. Before their departure, Marty sternly cautioned them not to mention Iris to their relatives. This only intensified Stephanie's suspicion. What truly transpired with Iris? If the woman in the dream was Iris, and something terrible had occurred, then where had her own mother come from? Once Stephanie and Charlie reached their cousin's home, she directly approached her Uncle Howard, seeking answers about her mother, Darlene. Howard was taken aback and swiftly diverted the conversation. But when Stephanie mentioned the location from her nightmares, the Skyview restaurant, Howard and his wife Brenda were visibly shocked. Stephanie pressed them for more information. Her cousins, eager to learn, joined the inquiry. Finally, they disclosed that Iris wasn't deceased. She had suffered a severe mental breakdown. But to Howard and Brenda, Iris's fate was as good as death. Stephanie wanted to speak with Iris herself, hoping it would bring an end to her nightly torment. A frustrated Howard explained that after their father's passing, Iris's control had fractured. She prevented them from attending school, kept them confined indoors, and lived in perpetual dread that her children would somehow meet an untimely demise. Eventually, law enforcement intervened and removed Iris. Later, Iris obsessively monitored their progress in foster care. Once Howard and Brenda had their own children, Eric, Julia, and Bobby, Iris began sending them disturbing letters. These letters were filled with dire warnings and gruesome photographs of deceased individuals. They eventually relocated, severing all contact with Iris. Stephanie requested to see those letters, but Howard and Brenda refused. After much persuasion, Brenda secretly revealed the letters' hidden location. Stephanie found the correspondence, and what she discovered shocked her. The woman depicted in the photographs precisely matched the woman from her dreams. This confirmed that her nightmares were likely authentic. Determined to uncover the truth, Stephanie drove alone to search for Iris, following the provided address. She arrived at a remote mountain sanctuary. Through an intercom at the entrance, she spoke with Iris, who vehemently urged her to leave immediately. But after Stephanie explained she was Iris's granddaughter, Iris insisted she empty her pockets before entering. When the massive door slowly opened, Stephanie cautiously stepped inside. The house was a labyrinth of bizarre obstacles. Even the roof was covered in sharp spikes. Iris explained this elaborate setup was for protection against unseen threats. As Stephanie carefully advanced, Iris nervously commanded her to close the door quickly. Suddenly, a fire extinguisher fell outside. Iris warned Stephanie not to touch anything, emphasizing that anything could be a deadly trap. Finally seeing her granddaughter, Iris smiled warmly, inquiring about her mother, Darlene. Stephanie explained that she had been separated from her mother since she was 10 and had no current information about Darlene's well-being. Stephanie then began questioning her about the nightmare. Iris clarified it wasn't merely a dream. She had once possessed the ability to foresee the future. She had glimpsed an impending catastrophe. Back then, she was with Paul on the highest rooftop. A woman's hat was swept away by the wind, and a boy attempted to toss a coin, but security guards intervened. Still, the boy insisted on throwing it. Paul was just moments away from proposing to her. Iris immediately warned Paul the building was destined to collapse. Everyone would perish. Paul looked bewildered. Then, Iris rushed to snatch the coin from the boy's hand. She had secured the crucial object that would trigger the butterfly effect. She hurried downstairs, retrieved a pot that had caught fire, and upon finding people dancing inside, she quickly grabbed a microphone, urging everyone to look at the floor. Some tried to silence her, but others noticed the spreading cracks beneath their feet. That night, she saved numerous lives. The building did not collapse. Later, the restaurant permanently closed. Iris had averted the disaster, but death resented its meticulously crafted plan being thwarted. Years later, it returned, claiming the lives of everyone who had been present that night, including her beloved wife, Paul. Iris had learned how to perceive death's approach, spending years thwarting calamities. Now, death had finally caught up to her. She was battling cancer.
While conversing with Stephanie, Iris momentarily lowered her guard. Death silently made its approach. A magnifying glass reflected sunlight onto a metal serving tray. The beam then ricocheted onto a rope, which began to smolder. Iris believed Stephanie's dreams were a premonition, suggesting she might have inherited her extraordinary gift. Iris sensed an anomaly, turned her head, and spotted Death's cunning trick. She swiftly knocked the magnifying glass aside. Death apparently believed Iris would be distracted by her granddaughter's presence. Iris instructed Stephanie to remain, to learn the fundamental principles, as it was too perilous outside. She hadn't ventured out in 20 years. But Stephanie didn't wish to stay. She needed to return to school. Iris cautioned her that death was coming for their family, but Stephanie dismissed it as merely a dream, refusing to believe her. She departed without hesitation. Iris pleaded with her to take the book before she left. Just as Stephanie was about to exit the door, Iris experienced a vision: the wind, the compass, the trigger objects. She knew that if she stepped outside, she would die. But for Stephanie, she took the ultimate risk. She stepped out regardless, thrusting the book into Stephanie's arms, imploring that it could safeguard the family. But Stephanie remained unconvinced, so Iris told her to step back, promising to prove the reality of it all. A sudden violent gust of wind swept in, toppling the compass. It struck a fire extinguisher, which then flew, fatally piercing Iris through the mouth. Now Stephanie finally believed. Iris was gone. Her relatives attended the somber funeral. Stephanie informed her father and uncle that Iris had warned them death was coming, but they remained incredulous. Just then, Stephanie's mother, Darlene, made an appearance, still harboring resentment towards her own mother. Stephanie walked away. Back home, she began reading the book Iris had given her. Meanwhile, the rest of the family was at Howard's residence, enjoying a barbecue, eating and laughing, completely unaware that death had already arrived. Bobby accidentally broke a drinking glass, but he didn't notice the sharp fragment had mixed with the ice cubes. Eric placed his beverage next to a gas tank. Clearly, they were about to become Death's unwitting instruments. Once everyone gathered to eat and drink, they unknowingly consumed the ice containing the glass shard. Howard raised a toast, stating that Iris's passing reminded them to fully embrace life's fleeting moments. Then everyone clinked glasses and took a sip. Suddenly, Julia began to gag, feeling something caught in her throat, struggling to breathe. Everyone rushed to her aid, but it turned out she had simply swallowed incorrectly. She was perfectly fine. Inside, Stephanie was engrossed in Iris's book. She came across a chapter detailing the coin incident and a barbecue grill. Meanwhile, outside, Eric was igniting the barbecue. Bobby called Charlie over to jump on the trampoline, but they failed to see the sharp rake hidden beneath it. The book slipped from Stephanie's hands. She felt a terrible sense of impending danger. As the grill was lit, a photo frame fell and shattered. A shard of glass bounced across the floor. Whose drink contained the lethal glass piece? Howard took a sip of his drink, but nothing happened. Then the camera zoomed in on Darlene's glass. Was it hers? Stephanie, sensing something was gravely wrong, headed toward Howard's house while simultaneously calling her brother Charlie. Unfortunately, he didn't answer. The trampoline had loose stitching and appeared on the verge of collapsing. On her way, Stephanie saw a warning sign: danger ahead. It was as if death itself was attempting to obstruct her. Then the glass shard was revealed in within her father Marty's drink, but he only took a small sip and set it down. Howard approached the trampoline, the surface looking like it could give way at any second. Luckily, Darlene spotted the concealed rake. She yelled, rushed over, pulled it out, and returned it to the shed. But just then, Brenda accidentally knocked over a bottle, which struck the switch on a nearby machine. The pipes underneath began to contort and vibrate. The same rake from earlier started sliding down its new path. When Stephanie arrived, death was poised to commence its macabre performance. Howard walked over to greet her. Suddenly, Bobby's leg became entangled in the trampoline. Julia turned to look, causing a shard of glass to fall from her cup. Howard stepped on the shard, a searing pain instantly shooting through him. At that precise moment, the rake dropped onto the lawnmower. Howard lost his balance and fell. The mower surged straight toward him, ending his life. The relatives attended another funeral. Stephanie rushed home to pore over the books again. She discovered a note that read, "JB found someone who survived." She began analyzing who might be next. Iris and Paul's children were Howard and Darlene. Howard's children were Eric, Julia, and Bobby. Darlene's children were Stephanie and Charlie. They were all connected by blood and couldn't escape death. Stephanie explained the pattern to the others. Now they sat and listened in stunned silence. It was all derived from the restaurant's original death list. The order of deaths precisely matched the one Iris had initially foreseen. Hundreds should have died, but Iris had saved them, and now death was returning to claim them one by one. Death followed a specific sequence in its killings. It commenced with Howard's family, and then it would move on to Stephanie's. Marty and Brenda weren't related by blood, so they were likely exempt from death's grim tally. That meant the individual in the gravest danger now was Howard's oldest son, Eric. But no one believed Stephanie. They all thought she was deluded or cursed, and one by one, they walked away. Eric arrived at his workplace. A spinning fan brushed against a hanging chain. The chain hooked perfectly onto Eric's nose ring. Next to him, disinfectant spilled onto the floor. The fan continued to turn slowly, pulling the chain tighter and tighter. Eric couldn't detach the nose ring. He had to stand on his tiptoes, balancing precariously higher and higher. He accidentally bumped into a nearby lamp. The lamp toppled, instantly igniting the highly flammable disinfectant. Things rapidly deteriorated. Glass shattered on the table. Eric was racked with pain and panic, desperately trying to free himself. In the last fraction of a second, he managed to yank off the chain. But as he fell, he knocked over more disinfectant. Moments later, the shop exploded. Meanwhile, Stephanie had been consumed with worry. Eric hadn't answered any of her calls all night. She grabbed Charlie, and they rushed out to search for him. En route, they narrowly avoided an accident. Luckily, Eric had survived, escaping by tearing off his burning leather clothing. But what happened next solidified Stephanie's conviction that death was actively hunting them. Eric, however, still refused to believe a single word of it, so Stephanie decided to remain by his side, determined to protect him. She began diligently following Iris's cryptic notes, striving to prevent any potential chain reaction. For example, a tree trimmer suddenly detached from a branch nearby, almost striking a boy's soccer ball, which in turn could have hit Eric's head. Just then, they encountered Julia, who was out jogging. A garbage truck rumbled by. Stephanie immediately warned Eric to keep his distance, but Eric, being characteristically reckless, started goofing around near the truck, making silly faces. Julia ignored them, put on her headphones, and continued her run. No one expected what happened next. Julia was inadvertently scooped up and flung into the garbage truck. They ran after it in shock, but the driver had headphones on and was completely oblivious. Stephanie sprang onto the truck, reached for Julia, and managed to grasp her hand, but it was already too late. Julia was crushed by the compactor.
That was the moment the rest of the family finally grasped the terrifying truth. Death truly was coming for them. Then, Brenda revealed a shocking secret. Eric wasn't Howard's biological son. He was the result of her extramarital affair. This revelation explained why Eric had survived, meaning the next individual in danger was Howard's younger son, Bobby. Stephanie recalled a name from Iris's notes: William. Darlene happened to know him, so they rushed to the hospital to find him. It turned out William was the same boy Iris had saved that fateful night long ago. William explained there were only two methods to circumvent death: either take another life to substitute your own, or perish and be revived. He told them he too was now afflicted, like Iris. His time was rapidly approaching its end. He warned that all of them would eventually die in the precise order listed. It sounded horrifying, but the truth was even more grim. William cautioned them, do not interfere too much with death's intricate design, because if you fail, things could become even more tragic. He advised them to cherish the remaining time they had. Then he quietly walked away. Eric theorized that if there was a way to save Bobby, then a near-death and revival experience would be the simplest approach. He suggested Bobby consume some peanut snacks, hoping to induce a severe allergic reaction so medical professionals could bring him back from the brink. They purchased a bag of peanuts from the vending machine, but the snacks became jammed inside. Frustrated, Eric smashed the glass to retrieve them. They even lifted the entire machine together. After some struggle, they finally got the peanuts. Then they stepped into the adjacent room, but accidentally activated the MRI scanner. A powerful magnetic force began to violently pull everything metallic. Eric's body piercings were ripped towards the machine. Even a wheelchair behind him flew forward. Eric was forcefully crushed into the MRI machine. Bobby, who had just consumed the peanuts, was utterly helpless. He attempted to reach for the EpiPen in Eric's hand. At that precise moment, a doctor noticed the commotion and opened the door. Then came the horrifying climax. A loose spring from the vending machine launched across the room, piercing straight through Bobby's head. Stephanie, Darlene, and Charlie held each other tightly. They realized they could no longer contend with death, so they decided to follow Iris's desperate path and risk everything. The three of them drove deep into the mountains to Iris's secluded cabin. They didn't notice a coin had fallen from the notebook onto the ground, where an old woman picked it up. The cabin, nestled in the mountains, felt unsettling, as if death had already taken up residence. Stephanie slammed the gas pedal, driving directly into the cabin. Midway, the car crashed, and her seatbelt buckle pinned her in place. Now, death's immediate target was Darlene. As long as she made it safely inside the cabin, everyone else might be secure. But no one observed the sparks emanating from a short-circuited roof wire. Just as Darlene reached the cabin door, a colossal explosion detonated the car. Stephanie's body was flung into a nearby pond. Charlie was pinned down by splintered wooden boards, injured and struggling. Darlene crawled over and freed Charlie. She urgently told him to rescue Stephanie quickly. Right after she spoke, a light pole plummeted from above, killing her instantly. Charlie rushed to pull Stephanie out. She was unconscious. Luckily, he revived her just in time. The two of them hugged each other, laughing in a mix of relief and terror. This had to be what William meant by die and come back. But when she heard Darlene had died, Stephanie couldn't suppress her tears. Only she and Charlie remained from Iris's direct bloodline. A week later, Charlie and Stephanie visited his girlfriend's house. While adjusting Charlie's clothing, Stephanie pricked her finger on a rose thorn. Suddenly, she remembered the nightmare. In that dream, Iris had also pricked her finger. Then, an old woman dropped a coin. It rolled down the steps and became wedged between the train tracks. A train was hurtling towards it. Charlie's girlfriend's father, a physician, explained that Stephanie hadn't technically perished when he heard how Charlie saved her. If you're unconscious and someone restores your breathing, but your heart never ceases to beat, then you weren't truly dead, he said casually. But to Stephanie and Charlie, that explanation offered little comfort. Stephanie saw a red car, precisely as she did in her dream. Charlie's girlfriend was even wearing the same attire Iris had. Her ominous premonition intensified. Then the train derailed. A catastrophic collision occurred. The train was surging straight at them. Stephanie tripped and fell. Charlie grabbed her, yanking her upright. It appeared they had eluded it, but they hadn't.